I always get so nervous when it says the broadcast is live, but here we go.
Yeah, the pulse goes up immediately.
Yeah, I know. Just dive into them. But Playmaker TV episode number 3. Jesper, I know that you have been like diving deep into things that we are going to talk about right now, and that is the NWSL because they
Yes.
are going into playoffs. Who is going to be the champion? We know who has won the league, but we don't know the. Do they call it the champions in the US? I don't even know that. I will admit. But how are you doing, Jesper? It's Monday, first day of the week.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. I have a very interesting and busy week with a lot of exciting workshops, both within Playmaker AI, how we will bring the company forward and set up the new plans and how we can improve ourselves towards our clients and partners. But then also another special workshop with the Swedish FA. So very interesting week. And then Playmaker TV, best thing of all, to dig into the data and share with you. So
Yeah, no time to breathe at the start of the week. It sounds like you're having or something. I hate Mondays. I must say that. I many of my friends and colleagues says that Tuesdays are the worst day, but I don't agree. So bear with me today. I haven't slept much this weekend because I've been at a retrieving hunting course with my puppy, and she's a handful as well. So, but we're getting there. But as I said, we are going to talk about the NWSL because Playmaker AI, who that is a football analysis platform with a lot of data and scouting tools, also have data on the NWSL. And like I said when we started this, that neither me or Jesper is any experts on the NWSL, but that league is entering the playoffs, and it's always exciting to see things from that perspective as well. So, but let's start with, because we started the last episode by talking about the Sweden men's national team. They had a very important game that night.
yes,
Didn't turn out so good. Don't know about you, what you thought,
no,
but
unfortunately not.
no. So let's not talk about that anymore. But we can talk about, it's the international break for the women right now, and they played Spain on Friday. Uh, I know you haven't seen the game, Jesper, but you said that you watched highlights, and what did you make of the highlights?
Well, I think it seemed like it was a game with two phases or two halves. Like Sweden was really pushing for it in the first half, and then Spain took over and created more of the chances in the second. When I looked at the highlights, it felt like Sweden could have scored more than one goal and won that game. But then when I looked at the expected goal numbers, it wasn't really a difference between the teams. So yeah, maybe it was a good, at least a good test and a good training game to face these good opponents and yeah, prepare ourselves for the World Cup.
Yeah, and Spain had a very like both different and special selection of players
Yeah.
this time around because um, they I'm not sure I'm gonna say that they missed their best players. I mean they had good players, obviously. You can't say that Spanish players are bad at playing football, but sort of like 18 of their regular national team players weren't with them this Friday. So Sweden, I'm not sure if Sweden were familiar with everything that they were gonna face. But I was positive when Sweden scored quite early in the game. It
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
very nice goal, we
Yeah.
must say. From start to finish, I think it was center back Amanda Ilestedt to Fridolina Rolfö to Kosovare Aslani and then to Rebecca Blomqvist.
Yeah, and that second pass, not the assist, but that second pass from Rolfö was really nice, like the deep ball, really generating that chance.
Yes, and like we said, they had chances to score, but they sort of dropped quite deep when the match continued, and then it ended up with Sweden being the defending team. And I mean, it's an exciting time for the Swedish women's national team, and they are going to play tomorrow night. They are going to play France, and that is going to be an interesting game from many perspectives, I think.
Yeah.
And I know that you are going to go to Gamla Ullevi to watch that game, right?
Yes, I'm gonna be there. Same with you, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually photograph that game. Very excited about that, actually. But we must mention that the game is sold out.
Yeah, and that's great. Really great that so many come to watch the game. And yeah, like the national team doesn't play too often in Gothenburg. Like the women's team have done so like maybe once a year or something. But that's really all we got here on the West Coast. So it's very nice when we get to see them play.
Yeah, let's pray for no rain. It's always rain when I'm there photographing. So yeah, we don't have to talk about that and the weather in Gothenburg. I know you live there, so
yeah. I will only come into a defensive position and defending the weather. So
yeah, I know. I mean, I live in Linköping. It's very windy here all the time. But in Gothenburg, it always rains. So
yeah,
I don't know what's the best. But let's leave the weather. That's kind of a non-existing subject in this broadcast. But the NWSL and it's we cannot leave out to mention that the league has been. I mean, I'm not sure if the right word is. I mean, it's horrible things coming out from that league. It's great football, but the abuse and the reports that have been coming out from there, it's scary stuff, I think. Don't know about you, but I don't think that there's any room for that kind of stuff in football or in any sport. You don't want to read I mean, you read the report and you get like I get horrified, actually.
Yeah, I agree. It's awful, and that's something that like we always need to remind ourselves that we should continue fighting for like equal rights and a good environment for everyone, and don't forget about it. So yeah,
exactly, and I know we often joke about the US being that they believe that they are the greatest and biggest and best in everything, but I do think that talking about these things, especially in the women's game of football, they are role models because they pave the way for, I don't think just other leagues, but every environment that we have with where women and men are like interacting in this way. So, but let's leave that as well and just go, because you have been like going nerdy in Playmaker with the data on the NWSL. So Jesper, how does it look in the NWSL with the football data? How have the teams and the players performed during the season?
yes, let's dig into that. I'll actually increase the picture even more so we can look at it. Yeah, this is the table as well. This is the top 6, so it should be read from the top left corner up here. OL Reign finished number 1, and then I put together all the team spiders. We've looked at these team spiders before, comparing Chelsea and Arsenal, for example, and you have the defense on the top, the expected goals against compared to how many goals you actually have conceded, so goalkeeping included, and then you have the offense with.
Can we just mention before you move on in this that we're gonna tweet out these pictures and the spiders in the tweet about this broadcast, because we know that the letters, they are quite hard to read.
Yeah, I'll add it here immediately.
Now you all gonna
yeah,
see when Jesper do this. So this is the proof of, because we want to let everyone see what we're doing.
I actually prepared another Twitter window, but then for some reason there was some errors. So that's what's happened when you record live sometimes. So I'll do it on this window instead.
This is in real life broadcast. This is what happens.
Exactly. And then we'll go back. So you can follow the spiders if it's hard to view any of the variables here.
You can just see on this picture that you can see that the teams are different. We'll just stop
yeah, they are different. Like when we viewed Arsenal and Chelsea's, for example, Chelsea was top 2 or top 2, I think, in every category almost except one. But we have a little bit more of variation. We can see that Old Rain, for example, has a very good defense, and they're generating a lot of threat through their passing, especially. And we'll talk more about a player that is especially involved in that part later.
I think you tweeted the photo of the players, actually, not the teams.
Did I?
Yeah, it's okay, because we were supposed to do that later on, but this is the players' spiders.
Okay, then I'll do a screenshot live.
Now we are concentrating, so this is the silence.
Yeah.
so it gets right this time.
Yeah, but if we continue to talk about Old Rain, they're not as like successive in generating threat through their carries and dribbles, and they're below average in pressing, like in how they pressure, how they win balls high. If we look at the Portland Thorns, they are above average in every category except the set pieces goal difference, and they're the best in offense and for example, and they scored 49 goals, was it? So
yeah, they scored the most goal in the league. Ended up second in the table, though.
Yeah. So like they performed very well in that category. And if we go to the other teams, we see, like, for example, San Diego Wave Spider being almost a complete arrow. They are number 2 in defense, 3 in offense, number 2 in pressing, and they also generate a lot of threat through passing. And then they're the best team in set pieces. So they have a expected goal difference plus. If you look at how many expected goals how much they generate through passes, throw-ins, corners, and set pieces, they have a positive outcome compared to what XG they let other teams generate against them. And we have one player that we're going to talk about more later, Alex Morgan, for example, who dominates the air for San Diego Wave.
I'm going to call that spider, that team spider, is now the umbrella spider.
Umbrella spider, that sounds good.
Yeah, because although I don't think that they will need those in San Diego, but you might need it in Gothenburg, Jesper.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it again. Yeah.
As soon as I hear umbrella, I think about Rihanna's song. I'm not going to sing it. I don't know if that's like a millennial generation thing, but that's what I think about as soon as
I thought of Gothenburg instantly. You think of Rihanna, that's the difference. Yeah.
Then we have Houston Dash, that it's not that dominant. They have a very good defense. I think it's number 3 in the league, but then they generate a lot of threat through carries and dribbles. But otherwise, they're below average, and they have the lowest possession in the league, for example, and the second to lowest expected goal difference through set pieces. But they still made it to the playoffs. But that's one interesting aspect. Then we have Kansas City Current, very successful in recovering the ball. They recover the ball the best in the league. When they lose possession, they're very good in recovering it and controlling possession again. Also generating threat through carries and dribbles, and have a good pressure. And that's probably the press play is probably very connected to the ball recovering. Like they are recovering the ball high. They are that is like working. It's correlating with each other. And then Chicago Red Stars, that also have a very above average season, except from how they generate threat through passing in play. And carries and dribbles, they are number 1. And we also can look a little bit closer to which players that are behind that later. So do you have any, like, should we dig into the games? We have the first round of the playoff, the quarterfinal, the wild card round, or
Yeah, I mean, on Sunday, Swedish time or Central European time, 11 p.m., Houston Dash are gonna go up against Kansas City.
yes. And I mean, if you look at this game from the Spider, you shouldn't maybe talk only according to the Spider, but if you look at the Spider, and Kansas City Current should be maybe favorites. They will see if they can penetrate Houston's defense with their carries and dribbles, and also if they can continue to be successful in winning the ball high. They have, I think, if it's the third lowest possession in the league, so this is not a possession game. And Houston is playing at home. Will they try to control the game, or will they let Kansas City do it? So that's one interesting aspect. And I will have Kansas City Current as the winners.
We'll see. Have that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm just gonna say it because you know we often talk about the Damallsvenskan being very even, the table, when we look at it from the top down. But the top 6 in the NWSL, they have, like, the 6th placed Chicago Red Stars, they have 33 points, and OL Reign with 40 points. So, but Kansas City and Houston Dash both ended up at 36 points and actually Houston Dash made 35 goals compared to Kansas City's 29. But like you said, they are good at defense. So let's see.
Yeah, I think they had like they were. I don't have efficiency in this Spider, but they didn't generate too much of expected goals, but they managed to score more goals than expected. So they were like very efficient, and we'll see if they can keep that up in the playoff. Yeah,
and then on Monday, San Diego Wave will play Chicago Red Stars. And this is interesting because San Diego Wave has Alex Morgan in their team. I know she's been absent now because she's not with the national team. So it's going to be interesting to see if she plays that game. Sofia Jakobsson, who is a Swedish national team player, plays in San Diego Wave, and she actually returned to the US to prepare for this game. So she's not with the Swedish national team for the game against France tomorrow. So what's your take on this clash?
It feels like a very, very even game. So I feel, if they get Alex Morgan back and she can continue to be efficient, that will be key for them. Absolutely. And for Chicago Red Stars, can Pugh, if you pronounce it that way, Mallory Pugh, could she score the goals instead and make this game Chicago's victory. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think this one will be very tight. It's I'll say San Diego on. Yeah, I'll say Morgan fix it. Sofia Jakobsson with the assist. So we'll see.
I can take that. That's fine. I'm the neutral spectator for this. Or actually, I'm not. I actually want Sofia Jakobsson to win, so I'll stick with that. But since you mentioned now some players' names there, can we look at what is the data telling us about players' performance from the regular season?
Yes, we will. Before we do that, I just want to.
Yeah, actually,
I always want to
have
show
that.
you the bottom 6 teams, because I was very curious about North Carolina Courage Spider having the highest possession, being best in pressure in the press play, good in ball recoveries. You see, they're above average in everything. They look like a true playoff team. You can't really say too much about the other teams, and then I went into Playmaker and I did a performance table from the 1st of August. You can see that all teams haven't played the same game, same amount of games. But if you look at North Carolina Courage, they have the highest expected points, although with a few more games played. So they're maybe not the best team from the summer forward, but they're definitely one of the best teams. And they didn't manage to go all the way and secure the playoff spot. And so they perform very well, and they should just continue to do what they're doing, and they'll probably get more out of it next season if they can keep the players. Also, we talked about Houston Dash and San Diego Wave. You can see that their form is not as good. You can see San Diego Wave has a negative expected goal difference. Houston Dash is not top 7 either. So maybe this playoff is OL Reign or Portland Thorns to lose. We'll see.
So this is, I mean, while we're at it, this is one of the applications in Playmaker, right? You can do this in Playmaker, the platform.
Exactly. We can do Damallsvenskan just to show. So you choose or we do it from the beginning. That's it. You go to games. You might think it's teams, but it's the games view. You choose season. I'll say we want to watch our Swedish Damallsvenskan.
What team is going to win the Damallsvenskan? Tell us now.
Then you
We're
go
dying
up.
to know.
Then you go up here, and then maybe we want to look 2020. We want to look from after the summer here as well. 1st of August, and then we'll pick today's date. And then we want to generate a performance table. And now it didn't take too long because we didn't have too many, but we have 7 games played by each team since then.
Yeah.
And we get an expected points table that it's sorted on, and we see that Häcken has like the best performance. And expected points, that's really how many points would the team take if you played a lot of times, like 1,000. I don't know, if you play the games a lot of times, how many points should the team take based on their expected goals and expected goals against in each single game. And Häcken should have taken 17.4. You can't take 17.4 games, but that's an average. They took 18, so they have actually got the outcome they were pretty likely to take. And if you look at the table here, you can also see the expected goals against and versus the expected goals against. You can see how many points they actually took, expected goal difference, the goal difference as well. And this is something that coaches might look at to see, like, is our form really that bad? Like, we're not getting the results. Are we performing better than the results we're receiving? Should we continue the same path? And maybe you get a result that it's looking good. It should turn over in the future. Or you could see that, okay, our way of playing is not leading to any way of success. Like, we don't deserve the wins, we don't get the wins. So this is a way of evaluating the team's performance. And you could do it from all the season. You could do it for just a part of the season. So yeah, talking about Damallsvenskan is maybe a completely different episode, but yeah, you can see which teams that are in form since the beginning of August, since after the Euros, really.
We are going to return to the Damallsvenskan once it's finished. So
yes,
it's not many rounds left. But let's go back to the NWSL.
Yes.
And I know that you have a lot of pictures with data from this, and it's very interesting to just watch and see. Because now we are gonna know who to look for when the playoffs get started.
And if we start with expected threat passes per 90, I can just do a short recap of expected threat. But do you really want to understand the metric? I recommend you to watch PlaymakerTV episode 2, where we go through it more in detail. But generally, it is like how much are a player increasing the odds of the team scoring later in the possession chain by passing the ball from position A to B or dribbling the ball from position A to B. And it's a trained model on historic data that gives us a statistical outcome. Yeah, here you have Sofia Huerta in a tiny lead above Carson Pickett. And Sofia Huerta is playing in OL Reign. And Carson Pickett is playing in North Carolina Courage. Two of the teams with the best passing that we saw on the Spiders. And they're both fullbacks. Sofia playing to the right, Carson Pickett playing to the left. Then there's we have a bit lower number going down to Janine Becky that plays as an attacking midfielder, Canadian. And yeah, we can go further down. I just wanted to, if we should mention some names, I want to mention Megan Rapinoe that hasn't played too much this season, but her expected threat numbers are looking really good. So she's been very important for the team in attacking when she has played. She hasn't maybe had the most assists or points, but she's generating threat. I also want to mention Trinity Rodman, 20-year-old from Washington Spirit, a team that I think came second to last, but she really did a great job. And yeah, a player for the future.
For sure. And we need to mention Sofia Jakobsson here as well.
Of course. Yeah. Number 10, our Swedish player. Yeah, and if we move on to expected threat for carries, we have a different list. We have a bit lower values, and that's generally because you pass the ball more and you also transfer the ball longer distances through passing and faster than if you carry or dribble the ball. But we have here Sophia Smith, forward in Portland Thorns as number 1, and we had Mallory Pugh in second place, also playing as a forward. The Brazilian Caroline from North Carolina Courage, another top player from North Carolina that is not part of the playoff. We have Megan Rapinoe being in a top 10 position here as well, as I talked about before, and Trinity Rodman as well. Yeah, those players are true. They can generate threat both through passing and dribbling, carrying, and that's usually not like it's true that maybe players can, but it's not that normal that they are on a top 10 list on both. There's always 1 or 2 players in every league, but usually there's different players on these top lists.
I think you have found the answer to why the the Lionesses fans booed Megan Rapinoe on at Wembley last Friday because she's that good.
Yeah, she's great.
They saw the threat coming onto the pitch.
Yeah,
just saying.
Great player. And then if we summarize it, then we have a general top 10, like who's generating most threat, who's most valuable in possession for the team, you could say. We have Sofia Huerta and Carson Pickett, and if you remember their values from expected threat passing, most of this is expected threat passing. This is just a small ad in carries and dribbles. Megan Rapinoe and Trinity Rodman in place 3 and 4. They had more of an equal split. And then you have Canadian Janine Becky and Ryan Williams coming there in number 5, the other fullback in North Carolina Courage. So they truly generated threat through their wings. And Sofia Jakobsson making the top 10 again.
Can you just explain now to the one who watches this that since Megan Rapinoe hasn't played that much, because I know that you saw that her playing minutes were quite lower than many of the players on the list. How is it possible for her to end up this high in these lists or tables?
That's very good that you mentioned. So this value is or calculated per 90. So you sum for the player in every game, and then you divide it by how many 90s the player played. So that's not maybe equal to the same amount of games, but that's how many 90 minutes have you come up to. So even if you're subbed in, if you do 3 30-minute subs, you have 190. So that's how it's calculated. And then I put the limit here that the player should have played 750 minutes or more for these lists. I have a higher number later when we will look at the 11, but for these lists, I made that. And that's quite typical that we look at a number, like when we do these lists, we look at a number around 33% or something, because then usually you have removed the most of the randomness, or like that a few games is very important. You can, of course, look into that when you're looking to players, analyzing players. But if you want to look on average on top performers, it's we remove the players that have played the least. And yes, and then we can look into shot assists, because I think this is quite interesting. So here we have key passes and assists that are, of course, very important for a team to score. Most goals are scored by a pass to another player. Not all of them, but most are. But as you see here, if you look at expected assist, for example, that is taking the expected goals value from the shooter and moving it to the passer, those values you get from assists and key passes. And that's the umbrella measurement of shot assist that we use at Playmaker. And expected threat passing, you had a different list. But if you look at shot assists here, you still have Sofia Huerta as number 1, but then Ashley Sanchez from Washington Spirit moves up to a second place, and Carson Pickett was number 2 before. You have the Binya that came up, that plays in North Carolina Courage as well as a forward, so or a winger. So you have a bit of different players coming up here. And should we move on to defense?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I thought I would add a defensive metric. Like when we're looking at this metric, this is not the entire truth of which players that are selected for the best 11 of the defensive players. We have other metrics as well, but this is one interesting, and it's expected threat prevented, and that's actually like how are you ending the other team's possession chain, and in which scenarios are you doing so? Are you good in ending possession chains in sensitive scenarios, or are you a good player in recovering the ball? So this is you mirror the expected threat value to the defender when they're doing an interception, a tackle, a clearance, if they manage to recover the possession. And here you have Naomi Girma, who is leading, and I have PADJ 90 there, and that's possession adjusted value, and that means that you have the original expected threat prevented, but usually if you make a top list on a league, you have players that play in defensive teams or teams in the bottom that have to defend more that are in the top because they are in more defensive actions. But then you look at how much possession do the teams have, and then you adjust it for the possession. So if a team has more than 50% is owing the ball more in the game, the value goes up, and if you're defending more, the value is scaled down. So this is like to look at how much expected threat parameter can they generate when they're actually in defense, and not like looking at the game in general to make it a more fair number. And yeah, Naomi Girma is number one in San Diego Wave. 22 years old. For those of you who don't know her, a rising star for sure. But then, yeah, you still have Megan Reid that plays right back in, who's number 3 that plays right back in AGL City. That is one of the teams that are defending more. She would have had a higher number, but she's still doing something good in her defense. She's winning a lot of duels.
I mean,
yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I'm not familiar with many names in this list, but I'm sure we will get a chance to know them once they will play more and more. And I mean, obviously, players are going to be seen on the biggest international stage as well. So I must say, though, that I find it very good that you explain these short, like PADJ things, because I'm not sure many would follow otherwise.
Yeah, it's good. We need to be very precise and explain it. So I think it's good, so everyone can have the chance to explain. And if you have any questions, ask me on Twitter after the episode. I will help you to clarify. But yeah, the 11. So what I've done here is that I've selected 11 on the same way that we usually select 11s at PlaymakerAI, and it's done through our action value metric that we will go through in a later episode. But you have the expected threat, for example, and the XT prevented. You have that in the metric, but you also have a lot of other actions. But it's truly looking at how are the players increasing the odds of the team scoring later in that possession chain with their actions, and it could be defensive or offensive actions. And how are they decreasing the odds of the team conceding a goal later in the opponent's or possession chain or ending. And then you get a value, and then you summarize it per role or position, and you can generate a grade. And then the script generates 11. It finds the best players, and then it generates the best 11 possible. So it could be a different formation based on what players that are the best. And we try to make as likely 11 as possible, so we don't have we have a free forward system with 3 center strikers or a defensive line with 3 fullbacks. Like, we want to have it as possible, or we want to look like a real 11, but sometimes you could definitely be something that you could criticize in the balance or so, but we try to make it a good balance as possible.
I know that you already admire Sophia Smith a lot. You've been watching highlights. I know that.
It's a true double threat. I really like her carrying and dribbles. We looked through her player report soon, so stay in the broadcast. But we mentioned the Binya from North Carolina Courage. We have Raquel Rodriguez, Costa Rican center mid from Portland Thorns, who is also a great player. And I think we could go through these players a little bit more if we look at the Spider 11. So the only player that's not in the Spider 11 is Annabella Bixby, and from Portland Thorns. But she's the best shot stopper in our metric, and she's well worth a mention. So let's go to the Spider 11. So I put all the spiders in 11, and if you want to follow this, I posted this screenshot in the thread below the episode, so you have a spider for all the players. And this is our general spider. You find it on the PlaymakerAI as well, and it measures the ability in finishing, heading, creativity, duels, defensive skills, and passing ability by using the action value metric that I mentioned. And we can look at the 11. So you can see that Alex Morgan and Sophia Smith are in the 11 for different reasons, like Alex Morgan being a very good target or poacher in the box. And you can see that Sophia Smith is also generating that high creativity threat with her runs and dribbles and so on. If you look at the wings, you can see that Debinia has a similar spider maybe to Sophia Smith, but she's also have the passing ability that is higher. The spider is also comparing to other players with similar roles, you can mention as well. Then you have Raquel Rodriguez, that is having the highest passing, like a very high passing ability value in this action metric, and she has a very high expected threat values for centimeters. So she's a very important playmaker. Sophie Schmidt, that is more of like adding, she has great finishing ability, defensive skills, a little bit different looking spider. Ina Sugita, I think she scored 6 goals for Portland. And she's, adding, like she's running into the box a lot, and she scored a lot of box goals. And the passing ability we saw on the shot assist list, for example, she also generates a lot of value for with her passings. And if we continue with the defensive line, Hailey Mays, she plays wing back in Kansas City Current, but Sofia Huerta plays in a 4-4-2. So they're playing a different system. You could maybe, but we're here, the script shows a 4-4-2. And you can maybe see that in defensive skills that they're adding, that Hailey Mays is not as much defensive duels that Sofia Huerta is due to her position. But both of them are generating a lot of value through their passing, and Hailey Mays a little bit more we're finishing. And then we have Kaylee Kurtz and Naomi Girma. We showed Girma's expected threat preventing values before, where she was in top, and that's not the entire picture why she's in this 11, but part of it. What do you think of the Spider 11, Mia?
I mean, this is interesting. You have never done this graph before in this, so I think it's very interesting to see that this is a 4-4-2, and then you see the spider, how they look. And I think we are gonna have a quiz sometime when you just show a spider and we ask, like, okay, what position does this player play? Just from looking at the spider, or who is this? Maybe I don't know, but
that
it's
sounds
interesting.
Good. I can quiz you on Damallsvenskan later when the season is over.
You can do that. That's fine, because I know a lot more about the Damallsvenskan than I do about the NWSL, I think. But now I feel the pressure. Actually, my pulse and heart rate are going up instantly. But remember, it's Monday. That's not my favorite day of the week, so my brain is not cooperating with me right now.
Yeah, and before we go into the player reports, I just made this plot of who's adding the most shot value and who's generating the most XT in the NWSL 2022. And shot value, that's really how you're overperforming your XG. So are you generating a high XG, but then also are you scoring more goals than expected? Then you get a high shot value. And we get these 3 areas here where we have the shooting threat, that a player that is generating a lot of shooting threat, the dual threat, the player that can shoot and also generate chances. And I highlighted some interesting players. We had Debinia and Smith in the 11. I also talked about Mallory Pugh in Chicago Stars being a true double threat. And we also have Ordonez, and Salmon, that has had great seasons, as you can see here in the offensive play. And Trinity Rodman in Washington here in the chance creating threat. So this is a way that you can illustrate how offensive players are adding value, and yeah, another view.
Another take on the best players in maybe the best league in the world.
Exactly. And yeah, are you ready for 2 player reports?
Yeah, I am. I think you have chosen great players to look at this time. And this is also, we have to mention that the player reports that we are going to show now, Jesper do them on, if you want to order a player report, then this is what Jesper can do.
Exactly. I'll just have a
He just
moment.
gonna find them on his computer. It looked like.
I'll have them here, but I just want to prepare them on the screen here. So who do you want to look at first, Sophia Smith or Alex Morgan?
Yeah, your favorite.
My favorite?
S. Smith.
Yes. Okay. Then we'll go Smith. So if you're not following NWSL and you're wondering who this player is, I recommend you to watch some highlights on YouTube. That's what
And now she has 2 spiders in this player report.
Yeah, so you can see that she's the first rated attacker. She was in the 11. So the players that play in the front 2, front 3, or how the team is playing. And here you have the spider that we had in the 11. Here is a position spider with some different KPIs that we're using in Playmaker. So you can see that she's leading in touches in the box. She's also generating a high non-penalty XG per 90. So if we remove penalties. And she's also, like, for being a striker, she's also gaining a lot of meters, or if you're American, yards through carries. And the expected threat from carries, she was number 1, as we saw earlier. She also is very high in expected threat received, and that's a metric that really tells you, like, how much are you increasing the odds of the team scoring later by receiving the ball in different areas. So it's a measurement of how good you are moving without ball and receiving the ball in sensitive areas for the opponent. And you can generate a player with a high value, and that is usually a player that receives through balls and run routes deep, or a player that is receiving a lot of balls in the box. And here's a good comparison between Sophia Smith and Alex Morgan. They can do both, but Sophia Smith's generating a lot through expected threat receiving when she's running deep. And we have a heat map that is centered a lot around the box. We can see here that she's adding the 6th most shot value in the league by all attackers, and she's also the person that generated the highest expected goals, and she also goals per 90, she was 2nd highest. So, like, she was a top striker above this line, so she scored more goals than expected. If a player is below, they should maybe have scored more goals. They didn't maybe take care of the chances as expected. And if you're looking at a player through more games, you have a more data to say that they are maybe not as good finisher as they could be. But Sophia Smith is a good finisher.
She has done her job well.
Yeah, we can look
according to the data.
Yeah, if we look to expected threat carries, she's dominant. Like, you can see that she's way ahead of the rest of the players. The other attackers, it's not as crazy as Johanna Rytting-Kaneryd's plot for Häcken, but it's similar. So she's very dominant. And if you look at dribble value per 90, so that's a value on, like, how much from the action model, like how much you're increasing the likeliness of the team scoring just by passing your opponent, like being able to dribble the opponent. It's not, and she's as dominant there. She's a true creative, technical player. And
can I ask you a stupid question now? Because I'm sure it's stupid, because, like I said, it's Monday and my brain is not working. But does this mean that she drops a little bit to receive?
By dropping, what do you mean then? Or
No, like linking up with the midfielders deeper
yeah,
down the pitch.
she does. She's also very good at, like, if she has some goals when she's received the ball, like in the central third, and she's running, passing her opponents and creating a chance to shoot. So she's like generating the chances by herself, making the last
A
opponent.
complete player, that is.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you look at entries into the box, for example, this is both passing and carries into the box. She's top in the league. Yeah, here is all the attackers, but yeah, she's a true baller there. And then expected assists per 90, but from all attackers, she's number 3. So she has a lot of shot assists, key passes and assists that generates a high expected goals value. So she's very important for Portland's offense. And we can look at these. We can look on the pitch here as well, and we can see that she's scoring most of her goals inside the box, but both from the right and the left. She's scored 2 goals from outside the penalty area. She scored 3 goals from penalty as well. And if you look at the expected goals share, like how much of the expected goals that Portland is generating is through Sophia Smith, it's 0.27. So almost a third of their chances are generated by or taken care of by Sophia Smith, and she's doing it well. You can also look at the key passes here. You can see that she's passing from both right and left and into the box. If you look at her high XT actions, and that's when she's increasing the chance of scoring with 2% or more. And the blue arrows are carries, and the yellow arrows are passes. And you can see that almost all arrows are going into the box. She was very high there in entry to the box. Highs and lead, you can see this in this arrow. And she has very long runs. I talked about like when she's doing the last opponent by herself.
yeah.
You can see that she's like running from their own half in counterattacks. And yeah, after these runs, she's finishing or making a short pass. And that's something I recommend you to watch on YouTube. And if you look at where she's receiving progressive actions, positive expected threat received, which is progressive actions really that she's receiving passes. You can see that she's receiving all around the pitch really, but it's really centralized just outside the box, like in the beginning of the final third or just outside of it.
She's very active, we can tell.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm saying too much, but I think she's a possible player that we will mention in the Ballon d'Or race in the future.
Ooh, now, Jesper, you have set the bar.
I have set the bar. So let's look at Alex Morgan instead, one of the best players for the last time, a true legend. We have her here. We have the same spiders. This is the same KPI spider for attackers that we showed on Sophia Smith. You can see that she doesn't have as much of touches in the box as Sophia Smith, but she has very high on headers 1 per 90, and she also has very high in expected threat receive, but it's more from crosses and she's more acting as a target. You can see that she's the number 2 here, and she has the highest goals per 90. She's expected goals per 90. She's second, so she's also way above the line. And in shot values, she's adding number 5 of the players that have played 50 minutes and more. And generally, it's easier to generate a higher shot value per 90 if you're playing less games. The more games you play, the more of a good player you need to be to still have the high number. So both her and Sophia Smith are true ballers. You can see that they have like she has a lot of actions out to the left as well. So she is more acting on the left here than she's acting on the right side. if we look at the different KPIs here that I've chosen to focus on, we have expected threat received, where she's number 3. She's generating a high number, as we talked about. If you look at passing difficulty, that's really like how high difficulty do you have on average on passes that you complete. You don't need to look at the numbers too much here, but she's completing a lot of passes that has a high expected or low expected percentage value. So it's like the average player is likelier to miss those passes than a pass that is taken maybe in your own first third is a pass that is very likely that is ending up in the right address. So yeah, she's playing very well with a high risk. She's also has a very high dribble percentage. She's not maybe dribbling as much as Sophia Smith, but her percentage is very high, and her headers percentage is she's great in the air. And if we look on the pitch here, you can see that she has some long shots, but her goals is centered almost only
very central, in the
almost
box.
only in the, we call it the golden zone. If you go from the goal area up to the penalty area here and down, you can see that almost all her goals are in the golden zone here. She scored 5 penalties, and I think it was in 5 penalties total that she didn't miss any, but she scored 5. So penalties that are in the same box here. You can see she doesn't have as many key passes, but there are also a lot of them centered in the penalty area here. She has some long runs as well, but mostly her high XT actions are passes into the box, shorter passes. And she's receiving the ball also all around the pitch, but if I would make it a heat map, and you might see it here, it's more centralized on the left side of the penalty area and just outside it. So here where I'm circling my arrow is the center of her progressive receptions. And that was really all about the player reports. Do you have any questions, Mia? Did I go too fast?
Yeah, a lot of questions, but in my head right now, we are gonna let people see these player reports in tweets shortly, like during the week. We promise. We know that sometimes it's hard to see on the YouTube screen or in the broadcast, but Jesper have them prepared for tweets later on.
Yes.
We always say that we are gonna do like, okay, let's just stick with 40 minutes when we do this, but then we just, we could talk like forever about these things. I get the feeling that you kind of liked to dive deep into the NWSL, because I know both you and me, we haven't we don't know much about the league, but watching some YouTube highlights and data gets you going, right?
Yeah, I truly did. I've always been passionate about American sports as well since I was a kid. Like all Swedes, or most of Swedes, like hockey, and I watched the NHL, and then I really enjoyed digging into the NWSL here as well. I really did, and I hoped you liked the episode and that the data that we provided with you was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting, and I often say that I'm gonna set my alarm to go up in the middle of the night to watch a game from the NWSL. Time is a bad limit in my life at the moment, but and sleep also. But I will actually, I'm gonna watch the playoffs.
Yes.
Are you gonna join me for at least one game?
I'm gonna try to watch the playoffs. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to, or I'm pretty bad at staying up in the night, but I watch them afterwards and try to not see the results.
Yeah, same, but in the middle of the night. But until next time, because when we do this the next time, I know that we will have a top meeting to talk about in the Frauen Bundesliga, Jesper, because FC Bayern and Wolfsburg are going to play each other.
So yeah, let's dig into that then through Playmaker,
yes,
and we'll see
what happens now in that game and with the data and how they play and all that. But until next time, have a good evening, everyone, and take care. Jesper.
Take care.
Bye.